Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you all for joining in today. My name is Joshua Pruitt. I am the team lead and senior customer success engineer here at DroneSense. We are going to spend about the next hour today talking about how we can connect manned and unmanned programs for comprehensive situational awareness and what that really means. Like we said, my name is Joshua Pruitt. I am the team lead and senior customer success engineer at DroneSense. I come from the fire service side of the house. When I left the fire service in 2015, I was with the Cartersville Fire Department handling hazmat. That has always been my focus is hazardous materials. For me, firefighting, put the wet stuff on the red stuff. The hazmat got a little more technical, a little more exciting for me. Prior to being with Cartersville Fire, I spent 2 seasons as a fire tower operator up in New Jersey with the New Jersey Forest Fire Service. But again, left the fire service in 2015 to start pursuing a career in drones. I am a Part 107 operator, over 1,700 hours of flight. Prior to anything drones in public safety related, I was very high in production work, focused on a lot of HGTV with the lakefront bargain hunt, beachfront bargain hunt. I traveled for a couple of seasons doing the Spartan race series that was live streamed via Facebook and YouTube for a couple years. But probably my most exciting piece outside of the public safety space, I was one of the drone pilots for Mercedes AMG Driving Academy. So we got to travel the country driving fast cars around really awesome racetracks and chasing them with drones. It was a really, really exciting opportunity. Fast forward to about early 2018, rumblings of drones being used in public safety started becoming a thing. I joined a company called Skyfire Consulting very, very early on. I was their lead instructor, traveling the country, teaching basic Part 107 operations to emergency management agencies, fire departments, law enforcement agencies, etc. I left Skyfire to join another company called Kitty Hawk. When Kitty Hawk pulled out of public safety, I made my transition into DroneSense, and I have been with DroneSense now for 4.5 years. Got to deploy to several different areas. I spent some time down in Surfside following the condominium collapse. We've worked a couple of Super Bowls. And most recently, I just returned from a week in Maui, working with FEMA, Maui Fire, and the incident management team out there, using drones for their response out in Maui. So I like to think I've got a little bit of experience when it comes to drones and public safety. So that is who I am. We'll go ahead and we'll kind of dive in here. So obviously today we're going to spend all of our time talking about public safety aviation from both the manned side and the unmanned side. So from very, very humble beginnings, back in 1921, actually, the Brits used lighter than airships for traffic control. So essentially, they were using blimps to monitor traffic control in 1921. Fast forward to 29, NYPD was using fixed-wing aircraft to apprehend barnstormers. At 1940, we first started seeing rotary wing aircraft or helicopters start to take over the public safety aviation space. And in 72, NASA revealed a study that says police operations supported by aircraft are now 40% more likely to apprehending a suspect. Fast forward to today, there are over 1,000 manned aviation programs within the U.S. that fall under emergency response, whether that's on the fire side of the house, whether that's on the law enforcement side of the house. This is not counting medevacs and aeromedical groups, but a large number of agencies, which still doesn't even compare to the number of agencies that are now utilizing drones. So, drones are the new thing in public safety. And we're always very concerned, what are they replacing helicopters? How do we interoperate with our manned units? But before we get into kind of that discussion, I just want to go over a very, very brief history of kind of drones getting started in public safety. Now, there may be other stories before this, there may be other stories mixed in with this, but this is kind of the history that I have compiled on drones in public safety. So back in 2005, for lack of a better term, the godfather of drones in public safety, Gene Robinson, used a fixed-wing drone to search for a murder victim. If anyone has kept up with any of the work that Gene and his team are doing, they have kind of written a book on SAR operations, on recovery operations, when it comes to drones. Gene is an absolute resource to this community. In 2011, a Predator drone was being used in North Dakota to assist with an arrest. Not to go too deep down the rabbit hole here, but if you do a Google search for the Gorgon Stair project from the Air Force, you can find some pretty interesting information as to some of the capabilities that we have when it comes to these large kind of military class aircraft. 2013, law enforcement adoption of drone use accelerates with the introduction of the DJI Phantom. This was really the first simple consumer drone to hit the market. Back when the Phantom 1 came out, we were still utilizing a GoPro. So it was a fixed field of vision, no pan, tilt, zoom. So it was kind of luck of the draw what you got when it came to the data acquisition and pulling videos. Fast forward through the Phantom series, we end up at the DJI Phantom 2 Vision, which was my first drone. And this was the first drone that had a dual axle gimbal. So it had its own sensor. And then obviously everything kind of went gangbusters from there as we moved into the Phantom 3 and the Inspire series. Then we saw the matrices start to come to market. And you know, now we've got DJI, we've got Parrot, we've got Autel, we've got all these new blue manufacturers here in the US. Things are really, really taking off, and public safety seems to be the focus of so many of these companies. 2020, research by the Bard Institute indicates that around 1,600 agencies in the US are using drones for public safety operations. And that is about twice as many as have crewed aviation programs. That is a number that cannot be looked over. More agencies are able to put drone programs in the air now than manned aviation programs. And so today I want to discuss how do we bring these two together. So obviously, there are a lot of challenges with doing that. And again, we support hundreds of agencies now. So I feel like we have a good idea of the spectrum of issues that we see. You know, first and foremost, deconfliction. How do we interoperate, and mainly how do we deconflict between a multi-million-dollar manned aircraft that's flying around a scene and, you know, a $3,000 Mavic 3 that's flying around the scene? How do we become aware of each other? How do we communicate with each other so that we can kind of ease those concerns around deconfliction? Is it a trust issue? I think this plays right into the deconfliction. Can my manned pilots trust that my UAS operators are skilled enough and have enough understanding to keep them safe? Crashing a drone is not a big deal. If you're in the drone space and you haven't crashed yet, it's coming. When we talk about crashing a manned unit, we're talking about millions of dollars in damages. We're talking about typically the loss of life, just like yesterday with Broward County's one of their medical units went down, killing a 19-year veteran of the fire service. So we have to be able to trust each other, that when we are operating in the same airspace, that we're not creating problems for each other, and that we're using both of these tools effectively to solve problems on this operation. Are there concerns about job security? 100%. This is one thing that I have heard for as long as I have been in the drone space. Surveyors are worried about drone pilots taking their jobs. helicopter pilots are concerned about drones taking their jobs. I don't think in today's world we are talking about an either or. I think there are plenty of room and plenty of use case for both manned and unmanned programs in today's public safety world. We are not in a place where drones have, the amount of time that they can spend in the air, the range, the types of use cases. Drones are not able to do hoisting maneuvers. Drones are not able to deliver hundreds of gallons of water onto a wildland fire. Drones are not able to carry patients. Now, I know we're all looking at the future and saying, oh, that's coming, maybe that's coming. I don't think that that is something that we need to be worried about for the next 10 to 15 to 20 years. So job security to me is kind of a ridiculous one, but it is definitely one that we have heard time and time again. Are there agency politics, internal politics? This is one I've seen all too much, where an agency will decide to spool up a drone program. Leadership makes the decision that that drone program is going to live under the manned aviation program, and the drone program never gets off the ground. And that's because those in command, those in power of a manned aviation unit have those job security concerns, have those trust issues that we talked about. And so the drone program never gets the start that it needs because we're not solving for all these other issues. Is it a budget issue? To me, we look at manned aviation, millions and millions of dollars in budgets. When we start talking about the unmanned side of things, typically we are fighting for scraps. Agencies that have large budgets on the manned side, on the unmanned side, are the exception to the rule, in the same way that departments that have strong relationships between their manned and unmanned programs are exceptions to the rule. The last one, is it a personnel issue? Time and time again, we hear, and everyone on this call should know that staffing is an issue. Whether you're in law enforcement, whether you're in fire, staffing is a huge issue. And so maybe we do have a drone program, or maybe we have a drone, but we don't necessarily have the personnel that we can pull away to be able to pilot the drone, to give the drone program some kind of value. So staffing is definitely a big issue when it comes to manned and unmanned programs. And so often, folks that are on the manned side, that is their only responsibility. They are part of the manned aviation program. When it comes to the drone space, this might be a secondary, this might even be a tertiary responsibility. And it might not always be the pressing issue. So we may not always be able to get a drone in the air, even if we want to. So all of these challenges, some of which we can overcome with the DroneSense platform, some of these have to be overcome internally by sitting down, by having these uncomfortable conversations, by figuring out best practices, by figuring out how we truly build that trust and show that deconfliction, but also show the value between operating a manned and an unmanned program on the same operation. So what I want to talk about now is building that comprehensive situational awareness, building that trust, showing that deconfliction, showing the value in the use case of connecting these two programs utilizing the DroneSense platform. But before we get into the platform, what is comprehensive situational awareness and how do we get it? So the first step in building that comprehensive situational awareness is to observe. We're going to observe the things and events in our environment, in our response, in our operation. And then we're going to do the best that we can to understand, to gather clues, to help us figure out what happened. And then once we understand, we can predict. We can predict an outcome. We can predict what will happen next. We can generate an incident action plan. We can generate a response plan for how we are going to solve this problem. Because as we move towards a more intelligence-based firefighting, intelligence-based policing model, it is more important, or it is important now more than ever, that we provide as much information, as much data as possible to those decision makers, to the incident commanders, to our chiefs, to our department. We have to get the data. The data is where the value is. So for many of you on this call, this next slide is going to be a little redundant because I do recognize that we have a lot of DroneSense users on the call. But for those that aren't, I just want to spend a little bit of time talking about DroneSense. So what is DroneSense? We are the turnkey solution for public safety UAS operations. 4 key pillars of the platform. So there's a command and control piece, which is our mobile application. And everything we talk about today is going to be on the back of our mobile application, whether we're talking about the drone side of things or whether we're talking about the manned side of things. There is an operations and incident command piece of the platform that we call Operations Hub, which if you've ever gone through a demo or seen any of our videos, I will always refer to that as the meat and potatoes of our platform. That is where our Esri integrations live. That is where we're doing map work. That is where we're pulling in real-time imagery. That's where all of our live streams are flowing into. That's where we're able to push data out to other third-party software. The real meat and potatoes of the platform. The third piece, and while maybe not the most exciting piece, but to me the most important piece, whether it's a manned or an unmanned program, is the program and fleet management. So tracking all of our hardware, tracking our pilots, tracking their training hours, tracking maintenance on our systems, keeping up with our COAs, filing NOTAMs as we need to. All of that happens on the program management, fleet management side of the house, which sometimes we refer to as airbase. And then for those of you on the manned side who aren't really up to date with what is happening on the unmanned side of the house, here within the past year, we have released a DFR piece of the platform, or drones as first responder piece, to allow for remote operations and to allow the drones to be used as a first responder. So that is a new piece of the platform we've recently rolled out. But the big piece beyond putting all these 4 pillars together that everyone comes to is the low latency live streaming and asset tracking. So right now, obviously, we're a drone software company, so we're going to focus on drones. But we feel like we've built that out pretty well. So now we're into the space where we're looking at terrestrial robotic systems. So maybe something like Ghost, maybe something like the Spot from Boston Dynamics. We were actually just up in New York this past week for the IAFF conference, working very, very closely to get Spot fully integrated into DroneSense. We're talking about indoor tactical drones as well, something like the Brink Lemur or the Loki from Sky Hero. But not only are we talking about drones and ground robotics, we're also talking about underwater rovers, small submersibles, the overwater semi-submersible Emily. All of these things can now be integrated into the platform. Essentially, anything that has a camera feed, we can start pulling into DroneSense, and that includes our manned aviation units. And what's great about our platform is we have automated the process so that command staff, shot callers, stakeholders don't have to remember any credentials. They don't have to remember any workflows. They can simply get a text to their cell phone or an email to their inbox with an encrypted link. And by clicking on that link are now able to view any live streams that are happening within their department, within their agency, within their region, within their state, within their country, based on what level of access that they have. A lot of agencies nowadays on the law enforcement side, it seems to me like the buzzword between DFR on the law enforcement side is also real-time crime centers or real-time operations centers. So we've built out some pretty incredible third-party integrations as well. Data can now be pushed out of the DroneSense platform into things like ATAC, Esri and ArcGIS, Flock, Fusus, and for those of you on the Axon side of the house, even a direct integration with evidence.com and Axon Respond. You also have a whole host of advanced geospatial tools. So autonomous flight planning and mapping, an ArcGIS layer tool allowing you to create feature layers. And then there's a whole host of annotations and iconography that can be used, again, to provide and gather that comprehensive situational awareness, to get data and information to the people that need it, whether those are our drone pilots, whether those are boots on the ground, whether those are our manned aviation, our TFOs, our incident commanders. We can now get this information and this data anywhere we need it as rapidly as possible. And it's more than just live streaming. So how does what we do on the drone side of things, how does this come into the manned aviation side of the house? Well, right now what we're talking about is an Android-based solution. Everything that we are going to talk about, everything that DroneSense does when it comes to manned aviation units is Android-based. It's a simple Android tablet or an Android phone, depending on how deep you want to go. We'll take a look at some of the hardware that I have here in just a minute. But with that Android-based solution, we are completely sensor and sensor package mapping solution agnostic. So whether you're using something like a shot over, used to be Churchill, if you're using Aero Computer for your mapping, maybe you're looking at a new system like what Traca and Traca Systems have brought to the table with kind of a singular turnkey solution. Maybe you're using a sensor from Teledyne FLIR. It does not matter. Regardless of your sensor package, regardless of your mapping solution, we can capture the live feed ahead of the mapping and the overlay or on the other side of the mapping and the overlay and provide that same low latency live streaming of whatever sensor package, whatever overlay you're hanging to anywhere, anybody that has access to DroneSense. And now these things can also get pushed into Flock, into Fusus, into ATAC, into Esri. And again, I'm going to hound on this, regardless of your sensor package. Now, understand that there is a little bit of hardware involved in this. Older systems will require some conversion. If we're talking about SDI connections, we can simply convert that SDI connection into an HD feed, pipe that into the mobile app that is run on those Android devices, and now we can get that live feed and that location information anywhere. So obviously, we need connectivity. So we have tested this over cellular. We've tested this over Wi-Fi using a plumb case, using a cradle point. We've also seen this work on a SATCOM connection. And again, this allows for real-time location sharing, because not only are we going to see the location of the helicopter, the live stream of the helicopter within the mobile app being used in the helicopter, being used in the manned unit, they are also going to see any boots on the ground running the mobile application. They are also going to see the location of all the aircraft being used on the operation on the unmanned side. So they're going to see the drone's location. They're going to see its altitude. They're going to see its heading. And this all goes to start, building up that trust, showing that deconfliction, because now everybody is aware of everyone's location. So we're building that trust. We're building that deconfliction. And then using some of the tools at hand, we're gathering more information. We're providing more information to our drone pilots, to our manned pilots, to our boots on the ground. And what's great is because that this is a system agnostic, Android based, it doesn't send a static IP. There's not one singular console where you're going to have to view your manned the feeds from your manned units. This can go to any cell phone. This can go to any tablet. This can go to any computer. This can go to your real-time crime center. There's no one or the other. You can have this piped into as many different places as you want, all at the same time. So all of our boots on the ground, simply by pulling out their cell phone, can view and see exactly what the helicopter is seeing. The helicopter can be marking locations, can be marking targets that are also seen by incident command, that are also seen by our boots on the ground, and vice versa. So we're sharing information. There is a constant data exchange that is happening simply by utilizing the DroneSense platform. So what I am going to pull up now is the DroneSense web console. This is Operations Hub. This is kind of, again, the meat and potatoes of the DroneSense platform. This is where all of our location information, all of our live stream information comes into, and I'll show you some of the tools that we have available. But first and foremost, I want to take a look at all of the aircraft that are active in my area. And what we're going to do is we're just going to pretend that instead of DroneSense today, I am representing some kind of federal agency. So we have units all across the U.S. And so here from Mission Manager, I can see a little green indicator by my HeliSense testing. And that is letting me know that I have live aircraft that are in this mission. We're not going to go down the rabbit hole of what are missions. I would implore you take a look at some of our platform overview basic training webinars on YouTube or on our support site. But I'm going to click into this HeliSense mission, and I'm going to click this little auto join all drones and devices, and holy smokes, you can see when the video doc loads over here, we've got a lot of feeds going. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to column this out. And you can see right now we have 7 live feeds coming in from around the U.S. You can see that we have a helicopter unit that is either hovering above my house or might have landed out back. Come down here. Let's see. Looks like we're down in Florida, I think, down in the Panhandle. Let me zoom out and see. Yeah, sure enough, down in the Panhandle, we've got looks like we've got Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. That's strange to me. Not going to go down the rabbit hole of our Star Wars Easter eggs, but those are something that live in the app. So we've got a unit down here in Florida. I've got another unit in Marietta. Looks like a Mavic aircraft out in Marietta. And then if we start moving out west, I've got a cell phone unit out in Colorado. And then down in Texas, looks like we've got another drone that is actually flying. I've got another aircraft down here in down closer south of Round Rock in the Austin area. And then we've got another ground unit, it looks like, out here in looks like in West Austin, out near Barton Creek Wilderness Park. So again, 7 feeds coming in from around the United States. Now, obviously, we've got these all columned out, so they're super small, but I can take any one of these that I want. I can go full screen if I need to. You can see the manned unit that we have parked out here in my office. We can dock these, make them full screen, or I can also take and I can throw the live feed directly up above the unit that it's coming from. So if I zoom out here, again, because I'm a federal agency, I can see all of the operations and all of the feeds that are happening any given time within my program. But I'm going to dock these all back into our video doc here. And you can see as I column things out, just the idea of how many feeds we could have running at any given time here within the platform. So I'll kind of get these back the way they came here. But what's awesome, most people on this call, I would almost say everyone that's on the webinar today, none of you have access to this DroneSense account. Some of you might not even be DroneSense account holders, and this is all brand new to you. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly throw up some information for you guys. I would invite anyone on this call. I'll leave this up for just a few minutes here. Scan this QR code. Scan this QR code, and this is going to give you a similar experience to what our real-time notifications look like. By scanning this QR code, you are getting access to that encrypted link that is now going to allow you to access all of these live streams from whatever device you're on. We'll leave that up for just another minute or so. And then what I can also do is I'm going to copy and I'll paste the link here in the chat as well. So imagine a large-scale operation. Imagine a large-scale response. We take that QR code, we post it at the incident command post, we post it at the check-in for this, this music festival, or we share this link with any of our units on the ground. They are now able to just store this link in their phone. If anything pops off, they are able to see all of this information. They are able to see all of these live feeds in real time. And then for those of them that are operating in the mobile application, they have a whole host of tools at their disposal as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to snap down here to my manned unit that is landed here on my desk in my office. And for anybody on the call that is some of my guys that have some of these live feeds up right now, I would encourage you to drop some markers. But what we were talking about in our slide deck is our manned units can be providing information in real time to our boots on the ground. So what's happening right now, our helicopter unit is out circling over this neighborhood near Augustus Drive, and we find something. We find something that we need to get to our boots on the ground. And maybe it's because we saw our suspect run into one of these houses. And so I can quickly, by either calling the address, give them the information, or what if I simply just dropped a targeted search icon or marker from our manned unit down to our boots on the ground? Not only do we see it here in the operations hub side of things, all of our units that are running the mobile application now see this information, and they also have this ability. So, maybe one of our other units, maybe one of our ground units is out doing some searching, and unfortunately, he finds a victim over in this house. He drops that information. We are all seeing it in the same place. Our manned units are seeing it. Our boots on the ground are seeing it. Our drone units are seeing this. And then back here in Operations Hub, wherever this may be open, maybe it's in Incident Command, maybe it's in your real-time crime center, all of this information is being displayed across all of these different sources. And it's being displayed in real time. What I want you to understand is that when we talk about real-time live streaming, we mean real time. On average, we are looking at 200 milliseconds of latency between the camera seeing what it is seeing and that feed coming back to you on whatever device you're looking at it. That means this is real-time, actionable, decision quality data. There's not a 10-second delay. There's not a 20-second delay. We're not trying to use Microsoft Teams or Zoom as a workaround. We're not using YouTube Live or Facebook Live. We are using an incredibly secure, encrypted up and down platform to get this information to the people that's needed. As you can see, we've added a couple more feeds here to our video list. So we currently have 8 feeds running from around the US. Again, all of these guys with the ability to drop markers, with the ability to give more context, more situational awareness to everyone involved in the operation. But what's really cool, again, we are here in Operations Hub. What if I wanted to provide an information or an area where I want my drone to operate? I'm going to come in here into my mission feature layer. Again, not going to go through the process of creating these today. That is not what this is about. But I'm going to come in and I'm going to draw out a search area because I know that this is where I want my aircraft to operate. So I can come in very quickly, draw out a search area. And once I come back and I click this here, I'm going to click save. This search area is now viewable to my manned units and to all of my boots on the ground, as well as all of my drone units. So for example, I can see Coit down here in the bottom right screen. I'm going to actually, what I'll do is I'll column this back out. And I'm going to scroll down to Coit's feed here at the bottom. So if I click on Coit's location, what I want to do, maybe I'm a manned unit that's flying over Coit, because maybe he's just boots on the ground, or maybe again we are interoperating with drones and with our ground units and with our manned units. So maybe our helicopter, he's at high altitude, but he has spotted something that would interfere with our drone operations. And what if he just comes over and simply drops it on the map? And you can see that as I drop it on the map over on the mobile app, well, I guess you can't really see it because my camera's off, it immediately pops up here on the screen in Operations Hub. Coit also sees that on his map. And again, everyone else involved in this operation is seeing that as well. So now Coit can be aware of, hey, I've got some high tension power lines that are going to affect me at lower altitudes, thanks to my man guys for marking those out. But then, maybe Coit comes in and he says, oh, hey, guys, I've got to come in and land. And I'm actually, here is my, this is my takeoff and launch point right here. So all of this information we can be providing in real time. The markers are instant. Our search areas are instant. And again, you know what? Maybe I have something that I want Coit to come out here to do. I want Coit to come and, I'm going to say that, Coit is actually, he's operating his aircraft in an area that we have marked as a no-fly zone. So this is something I can get on the radio with Coit. We can have a come to Jesus moment after the operation, whatever the case may be. You can see I've dropped this information from Operations Hub, and it is now visible on the map. So to me, this is incredible. And I think anybody on the call who has used DroneSense at any length, at any level, hopefully now you're seeing all the great stuff we've been doing in DroneSense with our drone program is the same type of stuff we can start doing with our manned program, as well as our boots on the ground. So a lot of capabilities by simply looking at DroneSense and just thinking about it outside of the drone space. So I'm just going to pause for a quick second because I see a few things in the chat here. Is there a way to send an audio message to boots on the ground so they don't have to look at their phones while in pursuit? Curtis, this is a great question. And we have talked about in-app audio or in-app push-to-talk capabilities for a while now. I'm not going to say it's not something that exists, or it's not something that won't exist. It's just not something that we have today. I'm not going to make a promise and say that it's coming this year or that it's even, coming next year, but it's something we have definitely talked about. I'd love to unpack that a little bit more with you. If you want to send me an email, joshua@dronesense.com. I'd love to kind of talk that out with some of our product team and really get to exactly the feature that you guys need. So great question there. From Thane, I'd love to know more about what equipment I need to integrate to get our air assets into OpsViewer. And we will talk about that here in just a minute. And then Jorgen, great to see you, sir. Feature request. Take the video streams from our Westcam IP video over the Heli internal Wi-Fi instead of using HDI cable hacks, and include all the KLV geographical metadata so we can get cursor on target and pinpoints from the helis. This is beautiful. I can't go too deep into what you're asking right now, but just know that these are all things that we have been considering. And there's a lot of stuff happening behind the scenes Hopefully, we will have more that we can share with you guys around that in the near future. From Chris, no fly zone's an actual geofence where the drone won't be able to fly, or is it just a marker for the pilot? Yes, it is just a marker for the pilot right now. This is just meant to be a visual reference. We have gone back and forth about the ability to actually create and apply geofences. For those of you that are familiar with DroneSense Remote, our DFR solution, you know that we have actual geofences within Remote, and it's something we've kind of gone back and forth now about bringing into the standard platform. You know, we always have taken a position that we never want to limit operations, but I can definitely understand the value of being able to provide actual geofences to your pilots. We will continue that discussion. Chris, I think you've joined some of our Friday working groups before, but the next time you're on a Friday working group, let's bring this up and see if we can spur a discussion. Thane, will MSAT run in the background? So we are still working to get the video to still be able to run in the background with the phone or tablet closed. We do have beta to get just location information running in the background right now, but we have some big changes coming to the MSAT portion of the platform. And for those of you that are hearing me say MSAT stands for mobile streaming and tracking, and that's how we are able to utilize our Android-based solution to pull in the manned aircraft feeds. So hopefully we'll be able to roll that new build out to you guys very soon. Thing, but right now it's still kind of more or less the same. Anne-Marie, great webinar. Are each of those drones operated by one person on the ground? Yes. So these are all individuals from my team and from other teams within the company that are around the country right now providing feeds. These are all singular feeds from one person with the no, it doesn't look like there's any exceptions here. It looks like everybody's just got one feed right now. It definitely takes a very serious waiver to be able to operate more than one drone as a singular pilot. It's 1:45 here. What I briefly want to discuss now is some of the hardware, give you guys some examples of what we do, and then we'll end with some more Q&A here. But I am going to turn my camera back on, and I am going to stop sharing my screen. And we'll talk hardware. Hopefully everybody can see me. So you have a couple of options when it comes to hardware. And again, we are working on, without saying too much right now, I'll tell you what we're working on. We are working on a solution called Onboard. I like to refer to it as HeliSense, but we are working on a solution called Onboard. This will be a small module that will integrate directly into the aircraft. There won't be any need for a tablet, any need for a cell phone. And it'll automatically activate as your mapping system, as your sensor comes online. It will be a very small form factor, standalone module that will come and will bring a lot of the functions that we've been kind of hinting at as we've talked through the chat here. And we will have a working beta of that very, very, very soon. As for right now, we need Android devices to make this happen. So it's kind of hard to see, and I'm sorry for moving my computer a little bit here, but what I have here is a Samsung Galaxy Tab Active 4 Pro. Say that 10 times fast. I think I've got some of my guys on the call. Alex, I see you on the call. Would you mind kind of putting some of this information as I'm saying it into the chat, just so guys can be aware of hardware types? Again, that is a Samsung Galaxy Tab Active 4 Pro. Why did we go with this tablet? This is the best of the best when it comes to Samsung's equipment. It is ruggedized. It has swappable batteries. It has hot swappable batteries. And we have found through some testing that on one single battery, we can live stream for almost 8 hours. Now, that is a massive number I don't know of any programs that are staying in the air that long unless you're in something like a Pilatus or some kind of fixed wing aircraft doing very high altitude surveillance. But that was why we chose to go with the Samsung Tab Active 4 Pro. Now, this is kind of the high end. This is utilizing the tablet. We're going to be using markers, and we're going to be using the DroneSense platform to do all these different things as an FTO or a TFO from the helicopter. So this tablet is also sitting in a dock from Ram Mounts. This is a hardwired dock that has built-in cooling and a skin that goes around the tablet. The tablet is what runs our mobile application. This simply docks into the tablet dock, and it's charging. It's also pulling the data itself from the mobile application. Now, we can take that in a completely different direction as well. For agencies who just want to utilize this, simply, I want to get my live stream up and I don't want to worry about DroneSense. I simply want to be able to provide location and live stream information to people on the ground. This is the other option. So this is a Samsung Galaxy S22 phone in the same kind of skin and docking system that we have on the tablet. Obviously, a much smaller form factor. But again, this goes into a dock. The video feed comes into that dock. And now we are piping whatever sensor package you're hanging through the Android devices to the ground. Now, there are a couple pieces of hardware. If we're talking SDI connections, we will need to do some conversion using an SDI to HDMI converter. This can all be tucked away in a very small Pelican case, very easily mounted in the cockpit. But it's very, very minimal hardware. Obviously, the biggest expense is going to be if you go the full tablet route. You're talking about $1,500 for the tablet, for the dock, for all of the mounting pieces, all the conversion tools that you'll need. But when we're talking about a manned program budget, $1,500 should just be a drop in the bucket. Beyond the hardware, you will need a DroneSense MSAT license for each individual aircraft. I am not here to talk pricing. I'm not a sales guy. I've got no desire to get involved in that aspect. If you want more information about the costs associated with utilizing MSAT for your manned units, you can reach out to our sales team at sales@dronesense.com. If you have operational questions, if you have hardware questions, if you have setup questions for how we make this work and what that looks like, you can reach out to me at joshua@dronesense.com. You can also connect with Alex at alex.armstrong@dronesense.com. And for those of you that don't know Coit Kessler, he has some really incredible experience and documentation from an operational perspective on how we take this a step further. Okay, we've got the solution in place. We've got the hardware in place. What do our SOPs look like? How do we truly make this work? You can reach Coit at coit.kessler, COITT.KESSLER @dronesense.com. We will try to amass some of this information together for you so that we can provide it all at one time. But several different people you can connect with, several different people to talk to about how this works. Beyond that, what I am going to do very quickly is throw one last slide up on the screen here. Pay no attention to the booth 813. I forgot to remove this from my slide deck before we got started. But if you have any questions, comments, if you scan this QR code, this is going to take you to a whole host of links to get you connected with the DroneSense team. This will also link you to our Facebook group, to our YouTube page, because if you haven't gotten sick of hearing me talk yet, there's about 20 hours worth of video online that you can listen to on every single facet of the DroneSense platform. But for now, what we'll do to round things out, we've got about 9 minutes left. I want to answer any questions, any comments, any concerns from all of you. You all have the ability to raise your hand. The chat is open as well as the Q&A section, and we will round out the next 8 minutes with some Q&A. I do see one from Danny Gritty. AR overlays coming to the UAS platform to see markers on screen as they are dropped along with teammate icon. Yes, I have actually already seen this. It is in the process with our product and engineering teams. AR overlays are something we have been working on for a long time, and I am super, super excited to get those pushed out to you. When we start talking about AR overlays, we're talking about markers and unit locations. We're also talking about eventually street names and house numbers. And what we're talking about is these in the video, not in the map view. Let's see, watching for any other questions. Do the manned aircraft need to be in cell range for this to work? So we have found success sub 2,500 feet over cellular. And if you have connectivity on the aircraft, you will be able to push this out from the Pilatus at 10,000 feet. Now, understand GPS location will more than likely not be shared at that altitude. These devices, beyond about 2,500 feet, it's going to have a real hard time figuring out GPS connectivity. But I have a feeling that with the Pilatus and the types of operations those aircraft are typically used for, location would not be something of interest or something that would want to necessarily be shared to boots on the ground. I see another question. ADS-B be integrated into Ops Viewer? Yes, we are in the process of rolling out our ADS-B functionality, and that is ADS-B in beyond just what DJI has. We will be integrating our own ADS-B solution. Remote ID tracking be integrated into Ops Viewer. So, like with everyone else in the drone space right now, there is still a lot up in the air as it comes to remote ID. Now, we are aware that with DJI, everything from the Mavic 2 Advanced forward is already integrated, and there will be nothing that anyone needs to do other than register the aircraft correctly. We don't know what that looks like for aircraft prior to that. We don't know what that looks like for the Blue UAS. We don't know what that looks like for Autel. We don't know what that looks like for Parrot. So more to come on that. I don't know that we will truly be able to pull remote ID tracking into Ops Viewer. There's still not really much information out there as to how and who will have the ability to access the tracking side of remote ID. So great question there, and more to come on that. All right, so we've got about 5 more minutes. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns around integrating manned and unmanned programs? I want to make sure we save time to address any of them, but if there are not, I am more than happy to give you all back 5 minutes of your day. I want to thank you all. Questions going up. Alan, I saw your hand go up. I'm going to give you the ability to unmute. Go ahead, sir.
Okay, yeah. So just piping up from the fire service community, that another angle on integrating manned and unmanned ops is accounted for in ICS procedures, incident command system procedures, and so in addition to that older system of planning things out and filling out forms and people communicating with each other a certain way within the command structure, I'm just super impressed by the way that it's integrated in the DroneSense HeliSense system, because it's so much more immediate to understand what you're looking at than digging through a box full of papers.
Yep. I completely agree. The goal is to make this as simple of a process as possible. So I appreciate you chiming in there. And again, when we talk about data sharing, guys, I totally forgot to do this during the meat and potatoes of the webinar, if you will. But I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to share a different screen real quick, and just to give you an idea of getting this information to the people that need it. what we are looking at really quick. Let me move this out of the way. I'm going to turn some of these layers off really quick. So this is some of the work that we did in Maui. So obviously right now we're looking at Lahaina as it was, 2.5 weeks ago. Zoom down in, all the buildings look great. We don't have all that great of zoom capability. What we did with DroneSense and with our boots on the ground, we went in and we mapped the entire city of Lahaina so that incident management team, FEMA, manned aviation units, everybody working on this incident had the ability to see this in real time. I know this is incredibly sad, but you can see this was flown with a Mavic 3, 150 feet AGL. It's all about that comprehensive situational awareness, right? So we put this layer in, and then we worked FEMA to get this layer. This was FEMA's information on damage. And by utilizing the information that we gathered, we were actually able to show FEMA that they had gotten it wrong in some places. So I'm showing you a little bit older data to be able to do this. So we zoom down in here, zoom out a little bit. Structures marked as gone, or as okay, is actually gone. Zoom out a little further, come to some more of these down here, zoom down in, and these structures actually do have some damage. And then we can take even further than that, can add the digitized burn area. We can add our parcel data. Now this is on the Esri side of things, but we've gone in and we've pushed all this into DroneSense as well. So Maui Fire, who is a DroneSense customer, has access to this information. Therefore, their man units have access to this information. The more data we can throw at an incident, the better off we are. So this was some of the work that we did out in Maui. You can understand the value of this in the hands of the right people. With that, I am going to stop my screen share. I appreciate so much you guys spending this past hour with me. Again, you've got several folks you can contact to get more information about DroneSense for manned aviation, aka HeliSense. Hope to have more information to share with you in the near future. If you need anything, please reach out to us. If you're on shift today, please stay safe for the duration of your shift. If you're off, hopefully the weather's nicer where you are than it is here in Atlanta. And with that, we will see you all very soon. Thank you again for joining us and enjoy the rest of your day. Cheers, everybody.